Dropout. The future was a road to nowhere. But when these two bad boys hooked up together, they stumbled into something good. In just 3 years, they transformed their lives and created a bit of a business empire. Clothes, haircuts, graphic design, even a school. In fact, it's more of a movement than a business. And as Sarah Hall reports, Andy and Danny have huge plans.
You
may not understand this music, detest it even, but you don't have to like hip-hop to appreciate this success story. These are the Decepticons. Their new album is one of the fastest selling in the country. And behind the band is Dawn Raid Entertainment. Most independent record labels go under in New Zealand, but Dawn Raid is going from strength to strength. It's run by an unlikely duo.
Morning, Teresa.
Danny Leo Savai and his best friend Andy Murnane.
How big do you reckon you can go?
The biggest.
What does that mean?
The thing is, you really got to understand what it takes to have no dollars in your pocket, and to dream of one day you might make 100 grand, then to making 100 grand, to one day you might make $250,000, to making $250,000, right up to where whatever we make today.
The odds were not in Danny and Andy's favour. 3 years ago, they were living in a garage in Otara. Now they're meeting the superstars of the rap world, like Snoop Doggy Dogg, and hanging out at Def Jam Records in Japan.
What's up, everybody? It's Brother D. I'm chilling in my girl Rico.
They employ more than a dozen people from South Auckland. Besides their recording studio, they've got graphic design and internet companies, a clothing label, a screen printing factory, a shop, even a hairdressing salon. And soon, Dawn Raid will open a school for young South Auckland kids who want to make it in the music industry.
You guys are going to lead the way, you're going to lay the foundation for that course.
So who is Dawn Raid, and how did this company win admirers such as the Warehouse founder Stephen Tyndall and serial king Dick Hubbard? Well, as you'll see, it's an unusual story. A story of two young men far removed from the traditional corporate culture. And a story that begins with a murder on the streets of South Auckland. In the late 1980s, Danny was the leader of the Booyah tribe. They say they weren't a gang, but about 100 Samoans belonged to the tribe, and they did get into trouble on the streets.
Back then was just a certain lifestyle going on, young. We didn't have much guidance as in life and family life.
Did you get into much trouble?
Yeah, we got into our fair share. But, without going through that, I guess I wouldn't be here where I am right now.
The normal teenage hijinks went badly wrong in 1990 when Danny and younger brother John got into a pub brawl. A man was killed in the fight and John was convicted of murder. He was jailed for 14 years.
But yeah, I believe it was my fault because, he was a young brother looking at the older brother. He used to follow me everywhere.
So, John goes to jail and he's only 17. And is it at that stage you decided to change your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're actually sort of like, they sort of ripped me to bits, really, Like I said, you got to learn from your mistakes. And if that, losing John for like 10 years, I had to learn from that, That was a big, massive lesson.
Danny wanted to re-educate himself and start again. He enrolled in business school, where he met a 16-year-old kid who would change his life, Andy Murnane.
Had like a singlet on and I saw, a Booyah tribe tattoo. And me being, where I'd come from, I knew all about it. So, I just walked up and said, you something to do with the Booyah tribe. And he was like, what the hell do you know about it,
Andy, too, had been in trouble as a kid, put on an anger management course at 13, caught stealing at 15. Because of their backgrounds, something clicked. Danny and Andy became best friends, an unlikely team. Palangi and Pacific Islander.
To everybody else looking in, they see it funny because, you know, it's a white kid and a Polynesian kid, you know. I know. Maybe it's the colour thing that gets some people. Who knows? But to us, he's just Andy and I'm just Danny.
Victor and Funnel, the new album, Samoan Pride.
They shared a love of music and wanted to make their own album to give aspiring young musicians the chance to record. Andy had the business dreams, Danny the street cred, but they didn't have the money to fund the project.
And I remember sitting in the car, because I'd normally take him to work, you know. And I sat in the car and I said, yo, bro, you know what I think we need to do to make money? I'm going to start selling T-shirts. I'm going to go to the markets this Saturday and do it. And he said, cool, do it. And I quit my job.
Andy and Danny joined with another garage T-shirt maker, Fred Haliki, and came up with edgy Polynesian designs.
We've got a shirt called Bungas Worldwide. And back in the 60s and 70s, you'll never say that word bungas to an islander, or she'll get slapped in the face or something like that. But nowadays, we've turned a negative and changed it into a positive. So everyone sees the shirts now and they're like, oh, hey, that's funny, that's a cool gimmick.
3 years later, the boys can still be found at the Otara markets every weekend. They sell tens of thousands a year. In fact, the T-shirts are so successful, they fund every other part of the business.
How important has the T-shirt business been to you?
It's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
It's the most important thing that got us to where we're at today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, still is the most important thing.
Running the companies is a 7-day-a-week job. It's a real family affair. Andy's wife, Monique, runs the clothing store. At the screen printing factory, David from the Decepticons has been given a full-time job. The hairdressing salon is run by their friend, Sai. At the head office, Andy's brother, Matt, does the books. And Andy's father, Mike, is the business consultant.
It started just as an idea to record young people, to help young people in South Auckland. And I guess now it's grown into a movement, really. It's a business, sure, but it's lots of other things. Yeah, so it's the embryo of an empire, I guess.
While Dawn Raid is now a mini empire, Danny and Andy have a staunch philosophy of looking after their community. Most of the people they hire have been long-term unemployed. It's a philosophy praised by many, including Stephen Tyndall from The Warehouse. While they look different from the other corporate types, the boys are regulars at the breakfast meetings of Business for Social Responsibility.
We started going along, going to this breakfast, going to the business meetings and, you know, just networking with people and, you know, which led us to be introduced to, you know, like Steve Tyndall, you know, just to give back, really.
Yeah, we didn't realise we were being socially responsible.
Nah, we didn't know it was called that.
Yeah, that's a fancy name. We used to say that.
That's what you call it. We call it just helping, you know?
Yeah.
Now they've had some success, the boys want to give something back. The same way they took Decepticons off the street and into a musical career, Dawn Raid wants to do for others. Andy and Danny have set up a 3-month course to teach kids the basics of the music industry.
Please, no tagging, no scratching or anything goes on in these rooms. How you see this place right now is how it stays, okay? Like I said, you guys are adults now, you know what I mean? Learn to work in a workplace, you know what I mean?
Danny says South Auckland is overflowing with talented kids, but most don't get the breaks they need.
You go to any church there is in South Auckland, and I guarantee you'll find a singer, you'll find a keyboardist, a drummer player, you know.
Kids like Sam from Mangere.
Pacific nations, put your heads up, cause we gonna ride up to the top. Keep on believing, don't you ever stop. Don't rate family, we gonna ride.
So many kids without, you know, that seem lost. Yet when it comes to music, they seem to be on top of the world.
Growing up in the Southside way, looking at all the children play, yeah.
They're all talented kids, but there's always something missing. And it may be that, you know, a lot of them, it's all about themselves, you know, just not being confident, you know, not being able to look people in the eye and speak to them. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do that.
We'll take it to the top, yeah. Believe in who you are.
Whenever like there's an era where kids come out, it's like, oh, you must have been on one of the Dawn Raid kids.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? They become the lawyers, they become the politicians, the accountants, the whatever.
A love for you will never fade to you. We dedicate the song.
Want to save a few out who are out there?
Well, you know, I never got the chance, you know. There was nothing there for me back those days.
Could have started a lot.
That's right. I mean, you know, if I had a course like this that I could jump on for like 3 months and could have made a decision in life back then maybe my little brother wouldn't have gone to prison. Who knows?
In many ways, it was for John that Dawn Raid was set up. They hoped that Danny's musically talented brother would join the company on his release from jail. This video shows him in Waikeria prison in early 1999. A few months later, John Leo Savai died from a heart condition. He was just 26 years old.
It's good to know 100% we gave our best.
The whole studio was supposed to be for him. So he'll come and, you know, he'll be like the engineer and the producer, you know, in the studio and that. So
when he got out of jail, he'd have somewhere to go?
absolutely. You know, that's how much we loved him, and, you know, what he meant to us is that we already had something set up for him in there. But unfortunately, he didn't make it. There's a place in the sun where there's hope for everyone, where my poor, restless heart longs to run. There's a place in the sun, and before my life is done, gotta find me a place in the sun.
While Danny still carries a lot of guilt for what happened to John, life is still pretty good for these two young men. The Dawn Raid empire is expanding, and they've just signed a deal with Universal Records, which will distribute the Dawn Raid albums.